Hello everyone, my name is Nicole Miyuki and this is Let's Make Art, and we letter a new project every week together. And this one we are going to be making some cards. It's titled Be Kind because I thought we would make some cards for people in your life. So this isn't a Let's Make Art Matter, which we normally do to make cards. This is for you to make cards for the people in your life. So the project that we're going to be doing 4 different cards like this. So the 5 different steps for this one. The first one is we're going to do the full watercolor wash. So I laid this all out already, but I'm going to show you how you can do a full watercolor wash. The second step is we are going to be doing the practice worksheet. If you don't have our subscription box, you can either get it or you can go to our website and go to letsmakeart.com and download this practice sheet so you can practice along with us. The third step is bleed proof white. So I'm going to show how, I should probably have the cards out, show how we're going to add with white on top of our watercolor wash. We're going to make a circular type of shape. And then the 4th step is we're going to add design. So there's a few different designs that we can do and we're going to go over. And then the 5th step is the lettering on top of it. So this is a really cool project because there's going to be 3 different layers that you're going to build on top of each other. So the supplies, the colors are, there's 3 different colors. So I'm going to be using magenta, mix that up, and then deep yellow with a little bit of sunset. Do you see that?
Yes,
that was an accident because I had pink on here.
Just frame that up.
That would be so, I love that. Looks so cool. I think I might have magenta. Oh, all good. And then Tahoe blue. So those are the 3 colors that I'd like you to have. And then for the white, so bleed proof white is an opaque version of watercolor. And in your box, you will have some of it. This is very chalky, making a little mess. So this is bleed proof white. If you don't have our box, you can find them. We sell them at, I think, yeah, we have them online. But it's Dr. Paige Martin's bleed proof white. So that's how you can layer on top of it. Because if you were just to do watercolor, it would seep into it. So those are the 3 different colors. I'm gonna switch pens. Switcheroo. I think the reason why is I had magenta in here, so I think it naturally got a little magenta, which totally works.
Yeah, big fan.
Maybe I'll just leave it. All right. Okay. The 2 different brushes that I'm going to be using are the aquash brush, the medium size, and then the round 0. I also, if you would like, if you are a part of the watercolor box, if you have a round 6, you can also use that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a complete wash. So if you don't have a bigger brush, you can use that or a flat one. Those are just other options to have. And then the other thing for supplies is the paper that I'm using is Canson's XL, and then I'm using blue painter's tape. So step 1. I pre-did this, so what I did was I cut one of the 9x12 pieces of paper, the watercolor paper, into 4 different sections. So you can make them any size if you want. You can also keep it the big 9x12, but I wanted to show how you can make something a little bit smaller too. So I cut that into the 4, and then I just taped this onto my table with blue painter's tape. So the reason why is if you look at these, is they have a white border on them. So that's a style preference. You also don't have to do that if you want your watercolors to go all the way to the edge. Completely up to you. But that's why I did that here, so you'll see it overlaps just a little bit to create that. So when I am painting, you have the option to paint your wash whatever colors you would like to do. I'm going to do 4 different ones just to show you guys how you can mix colors. So if you'll notice, I'm going to pretend this is my color wheel and I'm going to show you how to mix different colors. Okay, I had to ask Keaton to pause because if you'll notice, it did a little.
Holy cow.
a little cleaning. There's a lot of paint in here. So the reason why was because before I had done one of our projects that we put the watercolor in here. So if this happens to you, you will know that you'll have to clean it a lot. So we're good now, we're golden. What I wanted to show you was the color wheel. So if you think about that, if we only have 3 colors, it's okay because you can mix a whole rainbow of colors. We also have the Rainbow ABCs tutorial if you want to do another rainbow project. But what's happening is that when you mix red, or a red or magenta, our magenta is acting as red. When you mix red and deep yellow, you're going to get orange. So those two together make that. What you can do is when you are thinking of doing your wash, you can use your palette and you can already have your colors pre-mixed if you'd like, or you can just continuously dip in. So it's up to you. But I wanted to show you, so let's move this here. These two make those colors. So if you mix blue and yellow together, you get green. And actually, this is a more of a bluish green. So if I wanted to have more of a true green, I can just add in a little bit more yellow. And it creates more of an olive green like that. So you can actually continue to do the same thing if you take these 2 colors and add another color. This will be a more yellow orange, and this will be more of a reddish orange. And then, so that will go here. And then to make purple is blue and magenta. So there's your color wheel. So when I am doing my wash, what I did was for the first, I'll start with the red one. I'm trying to let them see all the things, but I realize we don't need that right now. We're still on step 1, just doing the wash. Okay, so I'm going to switch and I'm actually just going to use a wide brush. If you don't have it, like I said, you can either use the round 6 if you have that, or you can also use the aquash brush, but I'm just going to use this because it goes a little bit faster. So if I want to make this first one that's a red, what you can do is a couple options. One way to do a big wash is you can do what's called wet on wet. So it's already wet, and this has a little bit of tint already to it because my water was already colored. It's okay. I'm gonna keep going. So if I do that and then I add in my pink on top of it, that's how you can create this loop, the blooms, and these really pretty washes that's happening. If I want to get more of a red color, I'm going to pick up some of my yellow, which my yellow got mixed in. So I'm going to pick up some of my yellow and then add some of my magenta to it. So you can mix it on top of it, or you can mix it previously, like I was saying. Let me pick up some yellow.
That looks so cool.
This is like you're gonna get some of your sunset yellow.
Yeah.
So this is more magenta than my original one, but I really like it.
I do too.
They all could be a little bit different. So that's that one. Second one. I'm gonna make more of an orange, so a softer one. So what you can also do is you can just add and make the color from just your straight watercolor. So maybe I have yellow on here. Maybe I just add a drop. That might have been too much. We'll see what color we get. It's also, oh, that's perfect. It's a fun, you never know. I love it. Okay, so for this one, what happened was I got it, if you notice and if you're looking at this, it's darker right here and then lighter over here. So it was kind of a happy accident, but if you want to do something similar on purpose, what you can do is, so the first one I did wet on wet. This one I'm going to go straight to it even though it's completely dry. And I'm going to paint on here. And then I'm simply just going to add water. That's really dark. So I want to add a little bit more yellow to make it a little more yellow over here. Okay, so if you just use water, it will create a lighter value. like that. Then this one was green. So my green was yellow and blue mixed together, and I already have some, I believe this is some mixed right here. Let's see. Oh, that's blue. Sometimes it's deceiving because they start to look alike. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make more of an olive type of green color, so I'm gonna add a little bit more yellow to that. And you might be thinking, do I need to get more water if it's already colored? It's kind of personal preference to me because I'm not trying to get a specific color. It's okay if another color get mixed into it. It doesn't bother me too much. So don't feel like you have to. Ooh, so this is more of a, like, what's the color card? Chartreuse? Have you ever heard of that? That's more of a yellow green. So if I want to add a little bit more blue to it, I wanted to do that, and then I can add in more yellow. The reason why I'm having to add a lot more color to this is because I'm using such a big brush. So let me mix that back in. Then last one, I'm gonna do a purple. So I'll show you how if I were to just use the aquash brush and I didn't have a wide brush like that. That's my purple.
I Googled chartreuse.
Yeah.
And it says, chartreuse is a French liqueur available in green and yellow versions that differ in taste and alcohol content.
Oh, I didn't know it was a drink.
I had no idea. But
it's
then
this,
there's also a color.
It's this color, right?
Yeah, it is.
That's what I thought. Okay. If you notice, so if you're new to watercolors and you're not really sure how to deal with it, if you see that there's this color right here, what you can also do is if that, or this line right here, if that bothers you, just dip your finger in. Just blend it back out. All good. You might have paint on you, but it's okay. The other type of technique is you can mix it up. If you have salt, I don't have salt with me. Do we have salt here?
We might have salt here.
We might have salt. Okay, Keenan found salt. Annie's dancing about it. I wish you could see it. Okay, so I'm improvising, and this wasn't in the step-by-step sheet. If you're looking at that and you're like, what is Nicole doing? Another technique that's really fun about watercolors is using salt. So nothing special, you don't need specific salt. This is sea salt, but you can use any salt. Have you ever had pink salt? Himalayan salt. It's a good one. Okay, so I'm gonna show you how you can also just use your aquash brush. So what I'm doing is I am just going to do the same thing. I'm gonna add, it might just take a little bit longer if you don't have a wide brush. So I'm gonna mix in. What you can do is if this blue is too blue and you wanted to just create a purple card, just mix in some magenta on top of it. But I really like the blue actually. So there's no rhyme or reason as far as going dark to light or dark to light in the middle. You can mix it up, and that's why it's fun to have 4 different ones, so you can make it your own canvas. The only thing is if you are using a round brush, what I suggest not to do is to paint like this on top of it. You want to use more of the belly of the brush to get a bigger surface. Oh, look at that bloom.
I know.
So I'm going to add a little bit more because I'm going to do this salt texture, so I do need a little bit more here. Sorry, sorry, bloom. Okay. If you're wondering how to create blooms, it's created when there are just more saturation of water. So if I were to just put a drop of water right there, if you guys saw it just bloomed out like that. Is that satisfying?
That's so
okay.
satisfying.
So when it's wet, I'm going to do it like that. You also, if you want to just shake it into your hand, and then you can be more diligent about it. But I'm just going to add a little bit. You actually don't need very much, so we're going to let that dry. That's going to be a cool galaxy.
That's going to be awesome.
Okay.
It already is pretty awesome.
The trick is it just needs to be wet. So if I were to add salt onto here, it wouldn't do anything. Okay. Oh, bummer. Improvise. We're just gonna mix it in. It's all good. You get splatters, you can make it work. Okay. Step 1 complete. Step 2, so while that is drying, the reason why I wanted to do that first is so that you can let your project dry while you are practicing your lettering. So, my practice sheet got dots as well. Okay, when you are doing your lettering, this is your time to practice. Don't feel like you have to make this perfect. Also, don't feel like you have to copy exactly what I do. I just want to give you this sheet so that you can give yourself a little head start to practice on. So, the way that I designed this one is that you will notice a dot. So the dot is when I suggest to start a stroke. So you'll see I start here and then I go up and it ends right there. So the next one starts here. So the reason why is that lettering is a combination of foundation strokes or just strokes in general. So instead of what might naturally happen is your brain might think, okay, I'm gonna do an H. Maybe you even do your H's like that. But if you were doing a cursive H like this, is your natural instinct might be to go like that really quickly. What I challenge you to do is, can you take it a little bit slower and break it up? So like I said, for this one is I'm going to do, I'll draw over this so you can see. So I'm gonna do one stroke, stop, and then I'm just gonna connect them and do the second stroke. So the H is 2 different strokes. And I am lettering on top of this paper. And even though this is computer paper, it's not watercolor paper, it's okay, you can still use it. This is just for practice to get going. And as you are doing this and practicing, you are probably figuring out how often to dip, how often do I need to get water. It's fair that you have all these questions going on in your head. So what I want you to do is I want you to just experiment and try. So sometimes if well, actually, can they see my palette, Keenan?
On the top they can.
Okay. So if my palette looks very sparse right now, but the thing is that I already actually had a lot of water in here because I created this entire wash. So it's already a little bit watered down. So when I was doing this, I noticed it was a little bit watery than if I added straight blue. I know it's a different blue color, but this will be a good thing to show you guys is that if you can look at this now, it's okay, Keenan, that you can do a side view. If you're looking at this, this is a lot more saturated of a color, whereas this is a lot watered down. So like I said, it's because I already did my wash, so it already had a little bit of water on it. So when I'm lettering, because I know that and I realize that, what color was I using? So when I'm lettering the rest of my words, I actually don't need to go and get any more water. I'm just simply going to dip into each one. The other thing is that it's personal preference. So if I were to do, let's start again here. If I were to do the complete word, all in one stroke, as well as not lifting up, you'll notice here is it runs out a little bit more. So what you can do if you realize that is if I were to do this word again, maybe I do one letter and then I go and pick up more. So it's kind of a feeling it out and noticing it's getting a little bit light. Maybe I'll dip in and get a little bit more. Or you can just do every other stroke. But you'll notice looking at this, it's a more solid of a color, and rather than this one goes from really dark to really light. So it's a personal preference. So if you're doing this on your own, don't feel like you're doing it wrong, because there's different ways that you can do it, and it's more personal preference. The beauty of watercolor lettering is that it has those imperfections. So you can embrace them and enjoy them rather than fighting with it and letting it get you down. So when you are doing this, you'll notice on this practice sheet is that these letters are straight up and down and these ones are angled. You can take your time and practice this on your own. There's also an angled beginner lettering series if you want to reference that and go through that even more. I am going to, holy moly.
Explosions.
I did a lot more than I probably needed to, but that's fun. So feel free to press pause. I'm doing that again. Press pause and feel free to go through this on your own. There are also, I don't know where my other sheet is, but like I said, there's the angled lettering guide so you can continue to practice more. Okay. Oh, it's right here. Okay. So now what happens is that our friend the fly, when you are doing your final cards, actually, I'm really sorry. I forgot to say did I say why we were making these cards? Affirmation cards? I don't think I said that.
I think you said that they're unlike the Let's Make Art Matter cards.
Oh yeah, because they're for personal.
They're for people.
Okay. So this might need a couple more minutes to dry. But what I was gonna say is that I designed this so that if you notice that all 4 of these have different words, which is why on the practice sheet, there were a couple different words I suggest you just try and practice. So when I made the step-by-step sheet, I thought it'd be really cool if you think of 4 different people in your life that you would like to just make a card for. So what are different either words that you can affirm them in, or you like a specific quality of them, or you want to, if it's hope, maybe it's more of a sympathy type of card, but you didn't want to write sympathy. So you can write different words. So pick 4 different words that you can practice with, and then that's what you can do with your practice sheet, and then we're going to do this for a final one. Okay, so we took a pause break and let this completely dry. So if you need to take yourself some time as well to let it dry, you want it to be completely dry so that we can layer on top of it. So even if it's a little wet, I'd just wait a little bit longer. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the white circle parts on all of our cards. In order to do that, there is a white watercolor color. White watercolor color.
White watercolor color.
But I usually don't use that, and it doesn't come in your kit. If I like to use white, I like to use bleed-proof white, like I said in the beginning. So I realized that my cup of water was, in this case, too dark, and so I'm going to just put in some clear water. The reason why is because I'm going to be using white, so I want to have regular water. Okay. When you have your bleed-proof white, it comes, if you have a box, it comes in this container. Either way, it's going to be more of a paste-like form. So I'm going to dip in here, and I'm going to grab some out. I actually like to use the bottom of my brush.
Consistency.
What did I say?
Form.
Thank you. Thanks, buddy.
You're welcome.
Okay, so you don't really need that much. That might even be too much. But what you want to do is you want to add just a little bit of water into it. So I'm just going to dip in and pull and bring some water over so that it's a paintable consistency.
Form.
You're messing with me. Okay, so this is completely dry, and what I'm going to do is, you also can do a different shape if you'd like, but I'm going to do a circle. So I'm just going to do it in the center of all these. So I'm going to just draw a circle. And so if you notice when I'm doing this, you can see some of the watercolors through it. If yours is a lot more transparent than this, that's because you have too much water. So you can either let that go, and that could be your choice, or you can just add more to it. I actually really like that. So it has a little bit of difference to it. So you can see that my watercolors, because it was too watery right there, came through. I think that's really pretty. I'm trying to think how, if someone is a little tripped up with drawing a circle, what tips I can give you. So What I found is easiest for me is, if you'll notice, I'll do it on the next one, is I start with a small one in the center. So what you can do is just start with a dot, and then if you just add around it, and you can just draw circular motions, then you can just keep going out from there, and you can get a circle shape. So even if you draw an oval, or which an oval is an egg type of shape, it's okay. You can still stick with that, and you can go with that. What's happening is we're creating the space for where your words are. So if you have a longer word, maybe you think about it, and let's say on this one, I'm going to draw my circle a little bit bigger. So what happened was I noticed that this is getting a little bit thick like that, which is okay. I just want to be able to paint it a little bit easier. So I just dipped in the water to create a better consistency. So I am using my round aquash brush. I was going to say round 6. The round aquash brush. Okay, so that's a little bit bigger one. Then the last one. So if you guys can see how cool this is, so all these little explosions were created. Each one was a grain of salt.
Different grain of salt.
Different grains of salt. And all these little teeny ones. So I'm just gonna get them off. So cool, such a different look. And I'm gonna do one more. So interesting. What's happening is, I don't know if it's because there's too much water, or if it's because this was so water-based, but if you notice, it immediately seeped into here and it didn't really sit on top of it. So you also, this is going to be interesting. There you go. You might need to do a couple layers. So it is up to you how opaque, which is the opposite of transparent, how opaque you want your circle to be. So you might want to do a few layers. Ooh, this is like the moon. That's a little, so when I'm looking at this, is a little off center. I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger. Okay. Now, I am going to move on to the next step. So looking at these, I could add a little bit more white. Maybe I'll add a little bit more white to this one. Again, personal preference on what you want to do. So, I don't remember what number step we're on. So Keenan will have to figure this out for me. I want to say this is 4. Because
Perfect.
we're going to be doing
We'll roll with 4.
The watercolor pattern. So another worksheet that you can download is, I created this as just a kind of head start if you'd like to create different patterns. So this one is this guy that I did. So what I was showing was that you can draw different size leaves and just coming out from here. So maybe I'll do that on this one. We're just going to mix it up. I'm going to do it on this one. So I'm going to let that dry a little bit. When you are doing this, you can either choose to do your pattern with white as well, or what I did for these ones is I did it in a darker watercolor than my original watercolor wash. So I'm also going to switch up my brushes. So for the wash and for the white, I was using my medium aquash brush, but I want to get a smaller, thinner line, so I'm going to use my round 0. So if I go back to my palette and I'm looking for a darker color of, this just was a bunch of different colors. It's hard to tell what I'm working with. So I'm just going to start with my magenta. And maybe I'm just going to use, we're just going to see what that looks like. You're going to have fun with this. Or you can let this completely dry. But I'm just going to work around here. So what's happening was what I was showing on here Am I okay here?
Yes.
Okay. Was I'm just coming out from the circle part and I'm just going to draw with thin lines different leaf shapes. So there, I'm just gonna guess right here. You do not need to make these the same exact size. You don't need to make them perfect. This is just your fun time to explore different illustrative styles. And so when you're doing this also, is what I love about this is that even though you can see that that automatically kind of disappeared into it because this was my magenta color, it's okay. With this pattern and the way that we design this is that it is more like a hint of a shadow on these ones, whereas on these down here, it shows a lot more. I also realized that Keenan, what's going through my head is that I'm better at drawing and rotating the paper. Is that cool if I do that?
Yes.
Or do you want me to stick here?
I can't rotate the table, so.
You can't do that for me?
Well, I mean, I can.
We're gonna keep going. I'll just keep going.
Okay.
They might just be interesting.
This is how you challenge yourself. This is how you grow.
And that's the whole point of this. Okay, I'm accepting your challenge. And I'm just gonna, you'll see me contort my body in some interesting ways. You can also, if you want to, so this is that darker color, if you want this to also be just a different yellow shade, maybe down here when you get here, that's a little bit more orange. But you can mix it up, so you don't have to do the entire same color around your full circle. Kind of looks like a lion's mane.
Oh yeah, kind of. A flower lion.
A flower lion. You can also mix it up. Okay, so those aren't even really perfect shapes, but that is the beauty of this, is that you can have fun. There's one. That looks actually pretty cool. Yeah. Okay. Another one that I showed on this was if you take those same type of leaves and instead on this one, instead of coming out from here, what you can do is you can just create a wreath around it. So I'm going to choose, again, a darker color. This is a darker orange. So I can create a subtle pattern. So I'm just going to go around and do these 3 different types of leaves and connect these. You can do full leaves if you don't want to have them more airy. That's your personal preference. We did the Love More, Worry Less, which was a wreath. So if you want to also have another way to practice wreaths, that's another good one for you to reference. And if, like I said, because this is orange, it kind of disappeared. If you want to pick a darker red color, you can go ahead and do that. Keenan, do you remember how to make orange?
Red and or magenta with yellow.
Nice. You got it. That wasn't a pop quiz. I was just curious because it's your favorite color.
That was a pop quiz.
But that was
I accepted the challenge.
Because it's your favorite color. I was like, he's got to know how to make it if he's in a bind.
That's true. If I'm in a bind, I will not forget how to make that color. I will forget the primary colors, but I won't forget how to make that color.
It's okay. You got it. Okay. Another one that you can do, so the third idea that I did was, let's see, this was like this one. This was that one. I just switched it up on everyone, but it's all good. This one, I just had little buds of flowers on here. I'm gonna find my green. So I want to make it a little bit darker. So for this one, that's purple. So green was blue and yellow. I hope no one gets upset that I mixed it up. Sorry, people.
I think you own the creative license to mix it up.
Okay. You can make any color you want. So for this one, what's happening is I'm making a pattern. So instead of thinking of the circle as my area where I'm going around it, I am going to just draw 5 little shapes in a circle. Oops, that was blue. Oh well, going with it. That's actually cool.
Looks great.
So there is nothing about this that you need to be an artist. Well, you are an artist. If you're doing this, you're an artist. We're going to say you're an artist. But if you're sitting there and thinking, I don't know how to draw, just draw 5 little teardrop type of shapes together. I know you can do it. Okay. Then if you want to fill some space, add in some dots. You're good with that one. That one's easy peasy. For this last one, I love this entire pattern that was just created by the salt. So I'll do this just so I can show you. You actually don't really need a lot to this. Warning you, if I do this, it might be too much actually, but it's okay. We're gonna go with it just so I can show you guys how to do this. The trick with creating this one, where you can see it's kind of like a sunburst, is start, maybe I need to draw. So that was a little bit more blue, so I need to add more magenta to make it a little bit more purple. I don't think it's gonna need this, but we're gonna go with it. So leave a little bit of space in between, but draw your lines at about a similar length with a little bit of space in between the lines and the sun or the white moon. Then you do that all the way around. Then in between, you're gonna draw them at a different height, so a little bit shorter. This way, this helps, because if you were to do it all in one and kind of mix it up and draw little blades of grass, just harder for me, so I found that's the trick to do it like that. And then if you feel like there's too much space in between here, you can take it a second time, and maybe all of these ones are longer. Oh, and I picked up a completely different color.
Nice.
That totally works. Okay. Whoa! There's a lot going on here. That's really cool. Okay.
That circle should have the word wham in it.
Okay, I'll do that for you.
Perfect, thank you.
So that is the 4th step. Now all we have to do is do your letters on top of this. So I'm going to let that dry a little bit more, but I'm going to get you situated with all your colors. So what's really cool is that why I love bleed proof white is the reason why it's more of a paste-like material is it has a binding in it that keeps the liquid or the paint a little bit more together. So if I were to paint watercolor on top of here, let me show you an example. It will bleed. So if pretend that's my circle, I'm gonna let that dry for a second. It will not work if I were to just do watercolor right on top of my bleed proof white. So if we're looking at this really closely, you'll notice that it has more of a solid color rather than watercolor has that beautiful transparent type of color to it. So what's happening is you're gonna use your palette and you're gonna mix your own colors. That has a little bit, so essentially you're tinting your bleed proof white. So since I already have colors on here, let's see. I'm gonna make 4 different new little pods. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'm going to do this one magenta. And so I'm just going to mix in a little bit. So you notice that I didn't really need a lot. And if you want to make this a little bit darker of a magenta, you can add a little bit more. There's one. Then the next one, I'm going to make it more, what did I do on here? So I made it like a light orange. So let's see if I add in the yellow. I need a little bit more. Okay, that seems good. So you don't want to add too much. So the reason why I started with the bleed proof white and then adding the color to it is if I were to do the opposite, if I were to start with with a watercolor color and then adding bleed proof white, it might get too watery. So instead, if you're thinking about it, is I'm just going to tint this a little bit, then it'll have that bind and consistency to it still. Green. Because if I can show you, if I were to do the opposite and I added just a little bit of bleed proof white to here, it will be a little bit too watery. So you still want to have that thicker paste to it. And then the last one's purple. So you're essentially making like a pastel type of color. Okay. What I was gonna say is that if I were to, that might be hard to see. It tends to, it's really slight, so it's actually not that bad. But if you have your bleed proof white, so if I were to do watercolor on top of this, it might bleed a little bit. So it won't be too obvious. And you can completely try it and maybe see if it works for you. But for me, what I found is that it just bleeds a little bit. So I don't really like that. So that's why whenever I do lettering on top of my on top of my bleed proof white, I like to mix a color with the white. So that's dry. Okay, so I'm gonna take this, I'll just draw the word right there. So if this is your first time painting with bleed proof white, know that it is going to be a little bit different than you're used to with the watercolors because it is a thicker material. So this is, if you want to practice first on your practice sheet, go ahead and do that.
Scoot to your right, thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna test this out and see what color I get. Do you want me to? Yeah, I should leave the tape on. Okay. That's too light. So if you're looking at that and I realize it could create a cool different color, but I want it to be a little bit more pink. So I'm gonna go back to my magenta and just add in a little bit more. It's a little bit too light. Maybe all my colors might be. Another thing is that when I'm mixing, I am not jabbing into it, just like what I was talking about when you're doing the wash. I'm using the belly of the brush and using this side. So I'm just gonna go over that a little bit. That's still really light. So this is what you might go through as well. This is kind of trial and error. And the cool thing is that I can keep layering on top of it. So I'm trying to improvise and think, if my magenta isn't making it darker, I can add a little bit more. I can also add in a little bit of blue just to make it a little bit of a purpley type of color. The problem is that this is getting really watered down, so we're gonna see if this works. Yeah, this works.
It makes me think of like a blueberry yogurt.
It does, because it's that pastel-y, yeah.
It's that pastel.
I'm gonna let that dry. So the thing is that I went over this a little bit too much, that it's just so wet, so it's not really doing anything. That looks really cool. I don't know if you can read that from up there.
I can.
You can? Okay. I actually really like that, even though it's a lot lighter than probably what I would have normally thought to do. Okay, we're gonna keep moving on. When I didn't, throughout that whole thing, I was so concentrated on color that I didn't talk anything about lettering with this brush. So let me add a little bit more. I'm gonna use more of that color pink. It's really, dang, that looks really cool together. Okay, I'm gonna write hope for this one too. So when you are, our friend the fly. When you're doing this, you don't also have to write your word at a straight line. Maybe I'm gonna angle hope and I'm gonna draw it at an angle right here. So I am taking it slow and I'm thinking thick on the down, thin on the up. And I'm going to take it stroke by stroke. Because you are lettering in such a small area, you might have to squish your letters a little bit more rather than making them a lot rounder. So you might have to do that to fit inside your circle. I'm going to let that dry. Okay. Green. So I'm going to make this a little bit more, nope, wrong color. More bluish. So what was another word I did? Bliss. What I meant is, so I can explain this, let's see. I'm gonna do a longer word, I'm gonna show you this. So if I had the word glowing, when you are doing that, so naturally if I were to write glowing, that was my circle. I might accidentally do that and then I run out of room. So because I know that, my tendency might be to do that, which might be your tendency. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna think about squishing my letters and making them skinnier. So when I'm doing that, I'm making them taller and skinnier so I can fit the entire word. I love this color combo. So I have room to write ing. And also, if you notice, I am not following a straight line. It was kind of subconscious, but that's why I want you to go for this, and we're not having a template for this one because it's okay if it's not perfect. And that's the beauty of you're making a handmade card.
That is a great color.
I thought you were going to say color combo, and I was like, I just said that.
No, I love the letters.
I like that one. These ones I am okay with. I like that one.
Also, that's a great color combo.
Thanks. Okay. That was, I think I mixed blue and green because that's a turquoisey color. Okay. Bam. Bam or wham?
Wham.
Wham. Okay. I am going to make a purple color. When I have an idea. This I think is too light based on my trial and error, what I've been finding out before. So I'm gonna make this a darker color. Also, if you have our kit and, or our box, it came with black and gold gouache. This would also be a perfect time to use that as well. Because gouache is similar to bleed proof white, where it has that bind, so you can definitely do that as well.
If you got a sunset color like your hope word has around it, and then you put gold gouache there, that would look really cool.
Maybe I'll do that once we stop.
Pretty cool.
Pretty cool. Okay, Keenan's word is bam. It has 3 letters, so I could
Wham.
a wham. W-H-A-M?
Yes.
W-A-M.
W-H-A-M.
Fine. I'll do it for you. What I was saying was I can either write wham and have it be right here, Or what my brain is thinking is because it's creating emphasis and it's wham, I want to make them bigger and I'm going to fill up the entire circular space. So this is my design decision. All my other ones were kind of my script type of style, but I'm going to mix it up and I'm going to take up the whole circle, but I have to be mindful and I need to make these tall and skinny. W-H-A-M?
Yes, ma'am.
Really? Wham, ma'am, thank you, ma'am. What is that from?
I don't know.
I did not just make that up.
No, you didn't, but I don't know what it's from.
So my M is barely going to fit, but I'm going to make it work. And you will notice when I'm pressing on this is I am only using the tip of this brush. So I'm not pressing very hard. So you don't have to press very hard. There you go, Keenan.
Boom.
Boom, wham.
Wham.
That's fun. Okay, there's a lot going on in this one. There's a lot in here. The last final step is Keenan's favorite and the most satisfying, is taking off your blue tape. So when you were doing this is I would pull away from it and create an avalanche. So it's okay if some of your paint ended up bleeding. It might happen to you, and if you look at here, my paint kind of bled into it. It's okay. Not mad about it.
That's fine.
It's fine. But look how pretty. Oh, got too excited. Ripped too much. It's okay. Your corners or your edges look. So if you are going to make these into cards, they can fit into a smaller envelope and you can address them. Or you can make these into postcards too, if you'd like to address the back. If, oh, you're doing, trying to do that, I got a little bit excited again. Okay. How fun is that? It looks so much cooler without the blue tape. It was distracting me.
I was going to say that blue tape didn't go with any of the colors.
Actually, maybe that's why I didn't do blue, because I felt like there was so much blue already.
That's true.
Okay, I hope you guys had fun. You saw the entire process that I went through. There's so many different parts to this lesson. We went through doing a full wash. We did some lettering. We saw how we can add watercolor on top of watercolor to create a pattern. Then you can also create bleed-proof white onto watercolor and then mix it in to create lettering on top of that. So there's so many different options. That's why I love lettering. There's so many things you can do with it. And I would love to see what you make. So if you're not a part of our group already, we have a group called Let's Make Art Lettering on Facebook that we would love for you to join and to share what you make. Every Friday, we are doing a new project. This is part of our summer quarterly box where we're doing lettering with brushes. So have fun, you guys. See you soon.